Come on, Bubby.
Come on, get out of here.
Come on, Mary. Come on.
She's not leaving. She's gonna be right over there. You can't see her, but she's there. Trust me.
3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murph, and this is Metagame Minute. Metagame Minute is a weekly segment where I or Mike talk about anything. Now you want to come over here? Now you want to come over? Metagame Minute is a weekly segment where I or Mike or Mary Pup talk about something in the gaming world that we feel like talking about that day, right? Mary, what do you want to talk about? So today I want to talk about games that are hard to teach, or games that you struggle to teach. Because if you're watching this channel, you probably are usually the game provider and the game teacher to new people, or just people who've been gaming. A lot of times, people who consume board game content like ours tend to be people who are relatively deep into the hobby, and therefore they tend to have a lot of experience teaching. And I think teaching is one of the most important things about board games. And there are certain games that I feel like a lot of us have that are like, oh, you know what, I rock at teaching this. Like, I'm like, oh, I think personally I'm relatively good at teaching worker placement games in general. I just have a good feel and a good flow down for like teaching things in a certain order and doing this and doing that. And I think that it's probably because it's my favorite mechanic, but my teaching style tends to lean towards teaching worker placement games pretty well. But there are definitely some games that I suck at teaching at, and some of them make sense, and then some of them, in my opinion, don't make sense. I'm just bad at teaching them, or I find them very, very difficult to teach. And some games are going to be like hard to teach just because they're big, heavy games, like something like Spirit Island, something that's just got like a ton of different stuff going on, like Mary, and just all sorts of different things, and that kind of stuff always is going to be hard because it's kind of like a lot of the games I feel like that are difficult to teach. The reason is because it's hard to find a good starting point, and it's hard to find a good way to flow from one teaching spot to the next teaching spot. Like, oh, that's one of the like worker placement games. A lot of times I'm like, oh, I can teach this, and that can lead into that, and then that can lead into that. But certain games, especially bigger, heavier games, don't tend to have that. And especially another game that's kind of genre of games that's hard to teach are games with a lot of little rules. A lot of Ameritrash games suffer from that. A lot of tiny little rules that you kind of have to teach, Mary Berry, to have people play it well and have a chance of competing and playing in the game. But there's just so many little rules that you're like, do I teach them now or do I teach them when they come up? That's always a struggle. And I think as kind of a last genre one, and one type of game that I tend to struggle teaching a lot is trick-taking games. And just because trick-taking is an odd concept for someone who's never done trick-taking before. If you have grown up playing hearts or spades or anything like that, trick-taking is fairly simple. And trick-taking in the end is generally pretty simple. It's like someone leads with a suit, and then you have to follow that suit. If you can't follow that suit, you can play any suit you want. That's like the general basis for most trick-taking games. And then the scoring will differ. If you're playing hearts, you don't want hearts and different stuff like that. But for someone who's just never played trick-taking, for some reason, I find it difficult to get them to conceptualize it and what they're doing in it. And especially because trick-taking tends to have a lot of terms that we use. Like trump suit, like, oh, what's the trump card? But it's like, if you don't know what that means, it gets a little hard. Or like, yada, and then you can throw off. It's like, well, what does throwing off mean? It's like, oh, that means you playing off suit. But there's a lot of like little terms that happen in trick-taking games that don't happen in a lot of other games. And so if they're not used to those terms, that can make it very difficult. Specifically a game that Mary, what are you doing? You getting tired? I'm getting tired of holding you. Okay, I'll bring you down here. I'm back. Everything's fine. I got caught on my cord. What are you doing, baby girl? A game that I tend to struggle teaching a lot is, for some reason, because like I said, all those make sense and why they're difficult to teach. A game that I struggle teaching, and I don't know why, is Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is a very simple game where you literally can only do 3 things, 2 of which you do very often, 1 of which you do like once or twice in a game. And that's it. And yet for some reason, I can't find a good way of explaining. You put the cards, the route that you want, you have to put in cards to match the route, but the routes don't, like your color of your trains doesn't matter. So is there a game out there that shouldn't be hard to teach, but for whatever reason you can't teach very well? Because Ticket to Ride is that game for me. And so yeah, sorry, this one was a little bit rambling. I got distracted by Mary. And then I was having a hard time keeping my thoughts in place. But nonetheless, what games do you think are hard to teach, or what do you think makes a game particularly difficult to teach? Put that down in the comments below, because teaching is a huge part of our hobby, and anything that can make any of us better is a good thing. So I hope to see some cool stuff down in the comments. And whether or not you find every game easy to teach or every game difficult to teach, remember, the more meta, the more better. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you check out this video up here, that is going to be last week's Metagame Minute. It's going to be one from Mike. And that video down there is going to be something. I don't know. YouTube's going to decide for you, for me. I'm lazy. I'm not putting another video in there. I got stuff to do. And while you're here, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, a like, a share, you know, subscribe, do all the stuff you know how to do. Subscribe for Mary. Like, just subscribe for that little pup. Oh, she's so cute. I love you.